Well, hello, I'm Josh and I'm back once again with another great film to tell you about, and this one has been a long time coming. Now, if you've been following me for a while, or maybe have just seen some of my older videos, you might remember that in my very second You Need to Watch video on bringing up Baby, I mentioned that I was originally going to be talking about the Coen Brothers' second film, Raising Arizona. And back in those days, I didn't really have a very streamlined way of getting those movies on my computer to edit with. And so when I tried to put in my DVD, which wasn't terribly great quality to begin with, the film that I was seeing was out of sync, very glitchy, and it kept using different dubs of the film throughout. And though pretty funny, would have clearly been a nightmare to work with. So I ended up just skipping it, and after a while, I kind of forgot that I was going to do a video on it at all. But wait no more, because I have since gotten the film on Blu-ray, and I'm very excited to talk about this 1987 Coen Brothers classic comedy, Raising Arizona. Raising Arizona follows convenience store holdup man H.I. McDonough, who over many sentences to the local jail, falls in love with and marries policewoman Edwina after giving up his life of crime. And after realizing they can't have kids, they both decide to kidnap one of the famous quintuplets of the popular furniture salesman Nathan Arizona. But taking care of a baby is harder than it looks, and between High's old prison buddies dropping in for a visit and a crazed motorcycle riding bounty hunter getting on their trail, this new family is in for a wild ride ahead. So as I said, this was the Coen Brothers' second film, and though now easily identifiable as having all the Coen Brothers trademarks in it, I can't help but wonder what audiences at the time would have thought of this. You see, their first film, Blood Simple, though certainly an incredible film in its own right, was a gripping neo-noir with a dark comic twist to it, in many ways about as different as you can get from a film like Raising Arizona. I mean, this is practically a live-action Looney Tunes cartoon. The camera, though very creative in their first film, now feels completely let loose and a number of times rushes through the world at breakneck speeds. Most notably, this is used in one of High's nightmares, where he imagines Mrs. Arizona finding one of her babies missing. The camera is seen zooming across the driveway and the front lawn, hopping over cars and racing up their ladder through the window and into her mouth. I mean, what a crazy shot. And this was all largely accomplished through what were pretty inexpensive means. The main premise of the camera gliding quickly across the ground was actually shown off a few years earlier in Sam Raimi's film Evil Dead, which Joel Coen actually worked on as an editor. And the trick is actually very simple, only requiring a long board with a camera mounted in the middle and handles on either end. And then two people carry it, one on either end, balancing out the weight pretty well to keep it from shaking too much, while also enabling them to lift it quickly over objects like cars to create a gliding effect. There's even a shot in Blood Simple where this was used, though not nearly as elaborate as the one in this film. And of course, not to be outdone, Raimi came back with his own elaborate shaky cam shot, as he called it, for his sequel film, Evil Dead 2. And keep in mind, this trick is greatly assisted through the use of a wide-angle lens, which distorts the image and helps make the edges of the environment seem to fly by at a higher rate of speed. What I really love about this film is that the Coens seem to go all out with the visual comedy. After watching this, it really makes you wonder why more of the comedies that followed didn't at least try to be more visual with their humor, making the camera more of a part of the joke rather than just be an observer. And that being said, there are a number of filmmakers who have followed in the footsteps of this film. British filmmaker Edgar Wright is probably one of the most notable ones, directing shows like Spaced along with his Cornetto trilogy of movies, and he, along with his frequent collaborator Simon Pegg, have on many occasions both actually cited this film as one of their favorites. Wes Anderson is another one coming to mind, who uses the camera as practically its own character in his films, and though frequently shot very composed and portrait-like, he will at times break that mold with shaky handheld movements, which throw the audience off their guard and ramp up the intensity, while also creating humor through the over-the-top chaos created by his camera. And with all this talk about the film's fantastically inventive cinematography, I think it's worth mentioning the film's cinematographer, who later became a pretty well-respected director in his own right. After shooting the first 3 Coen Brothers films, along with hits like When Harry Met Sally, Misery, and Big, Barry Sonnenfeld went on to become a very popular director himself, making the 2 live-action Addams Family movies, Get Shorty, and the first 3 Men in Black films. And what's also great about Raising Arizona, in addition to the clever camera work, the film also has a hilarious script. It's incredibly quotable, largely because of their great use of callbacks like the Dr. Spock baby book, which they refer to as the instructions, but the Coens also show themselves to just be fantastic at writing dialogue. One of my favorite parts of the Coen Brothers film, Oh Brother Where Art Thou, is just how the characters speak in this very distinct, kind of funny way where they're shown to clearly be poor, lower class, and yet speak quite eloquently, using a unique vocabulary as if they picked it up from reading the King James Bible.
The preacher done washed away all my sins and transgressions. It's a straight and narrow from here on out, and heaven everlasting's my reward.
And after watching this film, you can clearly see the origins of that. Just hearing how Hyde describes things in voiceovers is hilarious, and definitely sets the quirky tone for the film, even when they aren't specifically telling jokes. And even in normally scary situations, like armed robberies, most of the people still act oddly calm and polite to each other.
Well, which is it, young feller? You want ice that freeze or get down on the ground? Mean to say, if I freeze, I can't rightly drop.
And I just love how their first 2 films, this and Blood Simple, just show off the variety that the Coen Brothers are able to do. From dark and gritty to outright goofy and playful, and no matter what, you can always seem to tell that it's them. And I could go on and on talking about how great the Coen Brothers are, but I think now it's time to move on to the fantastic cast of this film. To start, Nicolas Cage is wonderful. It's hard to believe that he also starred in Moonstruck this very same year. And he just embodies the role of Hyde, from his crazy hair to his Woody Woodpecker tattoo, which further helps characterize him as this cartoonish character. And for as many memorable performances as he has given, this one is always ranked up there as one of my favorites. Holly Hunter is also wonderful as Edwina, or Ed as she likes to be called, and just like Nicolas Cage, this was also sort of her breakout year as well, as she starred in the James L. Brooks film Broadcast News around the same time. John Goodman is of course fantastic as Hyde's convict friend Gale, who hides out in Hyde's trailer while on the run along with his brother Evil, played by William Forsythe. And the 2 make a really funny pair as they decide to go after the Arizona baby as well. And on top of that, Goodman was also becoming a bit of a name himself at the time, starring in David Byrne's film True Stories. Randall Cobb as the biker bounty hunter Leonard Smalls also makes for a really fun and over-the-top antagonist, really pushing the Looney Tunes cartoonish element of the script in his scenes. And Trey Wilson has some hilarious moments as the hot-headed Nathan Arizona Sr., and he gives a really kind of touching speech at the end of this, though I don't want to spoil much more about it in case you haven't seen this one. Sadly, Wilson actually died only a few years later in 1989, but not without appearing in some more big hits like Bull Durham and Twins. And last but not least, you also have brief appearances by Frances McDormand as well as legendary character actor M. Emmett Walsh, who both had much more prominent roles in Blood Simple, but it's still really fun to see them in the Coens' follow-up.
You probably got the life insurance all squared away.
Have we done that yet, honey?
Gotta do that, Hi. Eddie here's got her hands full with this little angel.
And a cool little trivia fact about M. Emmett Walsh's scene, if you look at the work uniforms, they say Hudsucker Industries on them, which is in fact a reference to the big corporation of the same name in the Hudsucker Proxy. A story the Coens had originally written as their second film, but seeing that it required much more money than they could acquire at the time, they wrote this film instead, though they eventually did get around to making the Hudsucker Proxy with another pretty famous cast, including Paul Newman, Tim Robbins, Bill Cobb, and Jennifer Jason Leigh, making the reference to it in Raising Arizona a pretty cool little Easter egg for movie fans to spot. So if you want to watch Raising Arizona, it's available to rent or buy from all the usual streaming sites, and if you want to get it physically, you have a few options. Though there are no big special editions of it like other Coen Brothers films, it's relatively easy to get a hold of. I mean, I first saw this film on a DVD I picked up from Dollar General, so you never really know where it's going to turn up. The Blu-ray, on the other hand, is slightly tougher to find. As you can see, the one I have here is actually the Spanish version, so it has all the text in English and Spanish, so it's not really a huge deal. But if you wanted to just have the English printing, you might have to look a little harder for that. I don't know. This is just the one that I found. But anyways, now for the comment question, and I'm wondering, what is your favorite film where the camera almost becomes its own character in the story? And this doesn't necessarily have to be a comedy. I mean, you could argue Alfred Hitchcock's Rope. The camera's meant to feel as if it's recording the whole film in one take, almost like it's observing the film in real time. And another one that really comes to mind is The Matrix, which, also used the camera in very creative ways to push the narrative while also standing out from pretty much any other film at the time. And you don't have to think about this too hard, just put some of your favorites in the comment section down below and start discussing. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you want to see some more of these. Remember to keep watching movies, and I'll see you again soon.
You know, honey, I'm okay, you're okay. That there's what it is.
I know, but honey.
See, I come from a long line of frontiersmen and... Oh, here it is, dear, turn here. Frontiersmen and outdoor cops.
I'm not gonna live this way, Hi. It just ain't family life.
Well, it ain't Ozzie and Harriet.